So, someone gets arrested. What actually happens next? That initial period, those first few hours and days, can be incredibly confusing and overwhelming. And now, with India's new criminal code, the Bharatiya Nagarik Suraksha Sanhita, or BNSS, the rulebook has changed. So today, let's dive deep into Section 187 of this new code. Think of it like a crucial stopwatch on police power, and honestly, understanding it is absolutely key to protecting your liberty right from the very moment of an arrest.
Alright, so here's our game plan for this explainer. We're going to start with the moment that clock starts ticking. Then, we'll look at what happens when the police say they need more time. After that, we'll break down the 3 critical choices a magistrate has to make. We'll also get into the timelines that protect a person's freedom. And finally, we'll zoom out and talk about the big picture, that delicate balance between justice and personal liberty.
Okay, let's jump right in. First up, the 24-hour countdown. The second an arrest is made, a very, very important clock officially starts ticking. 24 hours. You have to remember this number. It is the absolute cornerstone of your rights right after an arrest. It represents the maximum time the police have for their first round of questioning before they must move on to the next legal step. It's a hard stop, and it's there to make sure no one just vanishes into police custody without oversight.
And this isn't just a guideline, it's the law. Section 58 of the new BNSS code is crystal clear. Police cannot hold an arrested person for more than 24 hours without putting them in front of a judicial magistrate. The whole point of this rule is to prevent endless detention and to get a judge involved right from the get-go.
But let's be real, some cases are complicated and just can't be cracked in 24 hours. So what happens then? Well, this is exactly where Section 187 enters the picture. It lays out all the rules for when the police need to ask for an extension.
So picture this. At that 24-hour mark, the case hits a major fork in the road. On one path, if the investigation is done, the police file what's called a charge sheet and the whole process starts moving toward a trial. But on the other path, if the investigation is incomplete, but the police still feel they have a strong case, they can't just keep holding the person. They have to go to a judge and formally ask for more time.
And how do they do that? Well, they use a legal document called a remand application. The police bring the accused person to the magistrate, present this application, and basically make their argument for why they need to keep the person in custody for more questioning. And this isn't a rubber stamp. A judge has to look at the facts and actually approve it.
This brings us to a huge moment for the person who's been arrested. When they're standing in front of the magistrate with that remand application on the table, the judge has to make a really pivotal decision.
So the magistrate is looking at this, and they've basically got 3 doors to choose from. First, they can agree with the police and grant police custody, which means the person goes back with the police for more interrogation. Second, they can order judicial custody, which is very different. That means the person is sent to a jail, under the court's supervision, not the police's. Or third, they could grant bail and release the person from custody right then and there.
Now this brings us to a really important protection. If the magistrate decides to grant police custody, it comes with some very strict rules. It's only for one reason: interrogation. And it cannot, under any circumstances, go beyond a grand total of 15 days. That's a hard limit, specifically designed to prevent endless police interrogations.
Okay, so we've got that initial 15-day maximum for police questioning, but there's an even bigger clock running in the background this whole time. And this is where we get into the longer-term timelines and an incredibly powerful right called default bail. Take a good look at this table, because it's essential. The law says you can't be held in custody forever while an investigation is just dragging on. For crimes that are punishable with less than 10 years in prison, the max time is 60 days. For more serious crimes, it's 90 days. And if the police don't finish their investigation and file a charge sheet by the end of that period, something really important happens on day 61 or day 91.
Now you might be wondering, where does that 15-day police custody limit fit into this bigger timeline? Well, it's pretty specific. The police can't just wait until day 89 and then ask for interrogation time. They have to make those requests during the early phase of the total detention period, either within the first 40 days for lesser offenses or the first 60 days for the more serious ones.
So that brings us back to the big question, right? That clock is ticking down. 60 days, 90 days. What happens if the police run out of time and still haven't filed that charge sheet? What's the safety net?
The answer is default bail. And I want to be super clear here, this is not a favor, it's not something the court might consider. It is an absolute, automatic, ironclad legal right to be released on bail. It kicks in the very next morning after that 60 or 90-day period is over, as long as the investigation isn't officially complete.
And the power of this, right? It's huge. Default bail is so powerful, it essentially flips the script. It takes what might be a very serious, non-bailable offense and legally transforms it into a bailable one. At that point, the magistrate's choice is taken away. They are legally required to grant bail. It's a massive shift in a person's legal standing.
So why all these complicated rules? All these clocks and deadlines and different kinds of custody? Well, it all comes down to a fundamental balancing act that's at the very heart of our justice system.
You see, Section 187 is designed to strike this critical balance. On the one hand, it gives the police enough time to do a proper investigation, but on the other, it stops the state from just locking someone up and throwing away the key without a trial. By creating these clear deadlines and making sure a judge is always in the loop, it ultimately protects every person's fundamental right to liberty.
But, and this is a huge but, there's a catch. This powerful right to default bail isn't just automatically handed to you. The accused person has to be proactive and actually apply for it on that 61st or 91st day. It's like that old legal saying goes, if you are sleeping on your rights, no one will help you. If the police manage to file the charge sheet even a minute before you apply, that right is gone.
And all of this leaves us with one final critical question. These laws on paper create a framework for that delicate dance between state power and individual freedom. But how do we make sure that balance actually holds up in the real world for every single person, every single time? Well, that remains the constant test of a truly just legal system.